Hi folks, you're with Tassus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the trend that's increasing across the Western world, where the basic setup is that the Western governments and Western law enforcement and FBI, district attorney, that sort of thing, they're all owned by the globalists now, of course, and they're finding that in order to implement the globalist project, your legal rights, the rule of law, due legal process, even voting, all these things just getting in the way. They're just getting in the way of the globalists. Now, they've shut down the political market. All the main parties all support the globalist policies. They've shut down the open fourth estate, the media. That's all shut down and controlled with the exception of small pockets. So law and law enforcement, legal rights, due legal process, these things are getting in the way, and they're getting irritated with it. The Supreme Court in the United States, all these organs of so-called justice and law enforcement that if they control them, if the globalists can control it all and get everything their own way, then I guess they'll tolerate it. But there are still some holdouts, and there are still laws on the books, and people can go to court using these laws and still get decisions in their favour. Not all the judges are activists, but a lot of them are. So there's a chance that somebody may get a judge that believes in the evidence and facts and so on, like the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. But there's fewer and fewer in those around. But even so, the globalists want to do it now, right now. We want power today, not tomorrow or the next day, but now. And so increasingly we're seeing around the Western world that anyone who opposes any facet of the globalist project, it could be mass vaccinations, it could be people who oppose mass migration from third world peasants coming to the West, it could be people who oppose the idea of having to pay 2, 3, 4 times as much for energy as they should have because of some mythical futuristic climate apocalypse that is totally and absolutely based on some very activist ideological modelling, futuristic modelling. But none of, over the last 50 years, not one of their prognostications regarding the weather has come to pass, not even one. So these are the things, but if you push back against this, you now become an enemy of the globalist project. The globalist project owns the government and owns the police and owns the FBI and owns the district attorneys. Thus, you become an enemy of the state that's controlled by the globalists. But how can they? You've still got legal rights, and these laws are on the books. So they can't be as brazen as to just take away all the laws or tell people, we don't give a shit about the law. We're just going to, slap you around if we don't like you or don't like what you're thinking or don't like your views or your beliefs. They can't really do that. That could cause a mass uprising, and that would upset the globalist project. So they have to sort of pick us off one by one, and in the dark of night and that sort of thing. So that's what they're doing with these laws now. What they're doing with these workarounds. So rather than sort of take the law head on, for example, there's a guy who's say pushing back severely against the vaccines and the vaccine mandates, and he's exposing some of the hysterical propaganda that goes around the Chinese flu, and he's being targeted by the law enforcement of this particular region. Now he's committed no crime, and they won't lay charges against him and take him into court, which you'd think he would have, but they're expending an incredible amount of time on this guy, just harassing him and trying to get him to shut up, even though he has committed no crime. Now, if they have charges, if he's committed a crime, they have charges, they can bring those charges, and there'll be from clearly codified laws that have been voted into existence by the people's representatives, and then they can take the accused, who is innocent until proven guilty, they can take the accused into a court of law, and then prove their case to a judge, and then the judge can decide on the punishments or whatever may follow. But they don't do that. So what do? They've got to have some basis for harassing this guy. And so what they do is they say that he's a danger to the public. Now, it's a vague sort of thing. It's like white supremacy. What is it exactly? Why, he's a neo-Nazi. He's a fascist. But what codified law has this person broken? What proof or evidence does the police have that this person has broken any laws or is a danger? Well, they don't have to. So this is what they're doing. So they have certain accusations they can use to declare someone is a danger. So the police can say, this person is a danger to the public. So because this person is a danger to the public, so the police allege. Now, they don't have to prove this in a court. They can just allege it. And the whole process is just administrative. So they can just fill out a form, somewhere in the police department. They can just fill out a form and then they can go after somebody. There's no proof or evidence is required. Now, these were to be used, these powers would be used in exceptional circumstances, say when, there was a radical terrorist cell that was trying to bomb the bejabbers out of some building downtown or something like that. So the police could act quickly in the event that they couldn't, say, get a proper warrant or something like that. But it's only meant to be a very temporary measure that was supposed to be, enforced for a matter of hours until they could get the proper paperwork in place. But it's now being used to silence, harass, and attack people who are in some way a threat to the globalist project or don't agree with it. So once a person is declared to be a threat to public safety, again, no evidence is required. It's purely administrative. Some clerk in the police office fills out a form. That's it. That person is now, Billy Bob is now a threat to public safety. No evidence needed. So that allows the police to harass this person, search their premises, search their motor vehicle without a warrant. So to surveil the person, to tap their phone, it gives the police exceptional powers to just bypass the due legal process, the rule of law. And because they're bringing them out of court, the rules of evidence, now it's effective, given that they can harass the person endlessly on any they don't need a reason. They can just come in and say, we think you may have a firearm. They don't have to prove that you did or that you've ever owned one or have one or tend to get one or know someone who's got one, or they don't do anything like that. They can just act arbitrarily on the basis that you're a threat to public safety. Now, this is, of course, incredibly high-handed. You think, well, what attorney general, what Department of Prosecutions, what police captain and who would go along with this? I mean, who would want this sort of situation? But somehow, because the Western world has been so changed, that someone that disagrees or thinks or would like to question any facet of globalization is Hitler. Is Hitler? Let's call it what they're Hitler. We don't need to prove it. They are. That's it. Now Hitler's been dead for 75 years or something. Who cares? He's come back. We want to harass this guy, so we can call him Hitler. That's the same sort of thing. It's really just a name calling, an exercise in name calling, but it gives the police exceptional powers again to harass these anyone who's caught in those crosshairs. Now there's precedent in terms of the structural nature of this destruction of justice. The structural nature is, for example, say apprehended violence orders. Now the issue with apprehended violence orders is that anyone can go in and allege it, and they do not need any evidence. So the burden of proof, the evidence bar is zero. They can just go in and allege it. Then it becomes an administrative exercise that any clerk can process. So, but once accused, the person who's accused of it must respond legally. It must be a court hearing. Now, the reason they do that is say, well, we have to do it. Look at the epidemic of violence against women, the murders, the this, the that, the epidemic, we have to protect children, little children dressed in pink. Yeah, we have to protect them. Are you saying you don't care for children? Is that what you're saying, you damn Hitler fascist Nazi? So that's the sort of the emotional attitude that they sort of wrap these things in, that it's for some higher moral purpose. We're only trying to protect little girls in pink, you damn fascist Nazi. So, but the reality, of course, is quite different. It's a way to bypass due legal process, but it's also a way to target somebody. So once someone's got an AVO against them, they're not allowed to own a firearm, for example. Now, they may not even know that they've got an AVO. The address, they'll inform someone in writing, but it may be an address they lived at years ago. I don't live it anymore. So that doesn't matter. They've sent the letter out. They've done their bit. So this person doesn't even know they've got an AVO against them. They're going about their lives, minding their own business. But they own a firearm and they cross state lines, for example. They cross state lines, which is another crime. So you're not allowed to own a firearm and you can't cross state lines with this AVO. But they don't even know they've got it. Doesn't matter. They're now a de facto criminal. No court case has taken place. No evidence has been produced. No crime has been proven. But they're sort of like a half criminal, a de facto, administratively derived criminal. So once they have you've got 30 days or 14 days where it's to dispose of the firearm. They don't even know they've got an AVO, so they go to next thing you know, there's a knock on the door. The police seem, very, very good at finding them when they want to arrest them, but they can't find them to tell them that they've got an AVO. Then the police to the door arresting somebody. You got a firearm, buddy, and you cross state lines. We can put you in the slammer for 6 months. Now, let's suppose the person knows they got the AVO, so they appeal it, and they go, while they're hearing this in, they still have to divest themselves. They can't do this, can't do that, can't do something, can't go here, can't go there, can't have a firearm, even though they've appealed it. They're waiting for a hearing, but the hearing could be a year away. So they have to put various aspects of their life on hold while they wait for it. But in that 12 months, they have significantly reduced legal rights, which allow the police to harass them and treat them arbitrarily in ways that they couldn't do to someone else necessarily. But the material point here is that although it's supposed to be to protect people, it takes away someone's legal rights. And the burden of proof, the bar of evidence is set to zero for those sort of things. So anyone can go in at any time. The same could be, say, for any woman could walk in and say, look, Billy Bob's the father of my child, and I don't know where he is. I didn't know where he is, but 10 years down the track, I saw him yesterday, and he's living at 99 Smith Street or Jones Street or whatever. So next thing you know, Billy Bob now is automatically, again, no evidence is required. There's no tests or genetic tests or anything like that. So Billy Bob's 10 years in arrears. Now, this is all administrative. He's 10 years in arrears on child support and alimony or whatever that particular region or state has got. So because he's in arrears, he's now a criminal of such a grade, and he owes such and such money. Because of the amount of money he allegedly owes, then he's got to spend 6 months in prison, and he's going to lose his car license. They can draw money from his bank account without his knowledge or permission. They've got wide-ranging powers at this point. But again, the evidence bar is set to zero. If it had to be proven with DNA tests and all this sort of thing, and there was a proper attempt to sort of sort the situation out and find out what was going on, that would be okay. That would be a proper legal process or some sort of form of arbitration, if you like. But straight away, Billy Bob's a criminal, and they're going after him, and all the forces of law enforcement chase him. But just on the issue of the globalist project, we're seeing, again, around the Western world, any opposition to the globalist project. It could be mass migration, the vaccination for the Chinese flu. It could be anything, anything that the globalists really want. And you can tell from the talking points that the mainstream news stations are pushing. Then if you oppose that or question it or go on social media with it, then you can suffer loss of your social media accounts. The banks may not, accept an account from you, and also you can be subject to harassment until you shut up or until they can somehow do away with you. But this is increasingly the case. The police have got no time to actually police crime and so on, and more the cases that they're bringing, the people they're harassing, is purely political, ideological. And again, you look at the folks that are still languishing in prison from January 6th in Washington. They've committed no crime, but the state can invent crimes. Can say, well, they're insurrectionists, they're white supremacists. So once this vague term is declared, that then means that once you're targeted with that accusation that your legal rights, which requires no proof or evidence, they don't have to go to a court of law and prove that someone's a white supremacist or a fascist or something like this. There's no evidence for that. There's no laws for that, no specific laws for those things. So they can't go after people for that. So they get around it by harassing and using even the private sector to harass you. They want to get you to shut up. But if you look at it, again, coming back to the folks who were arbitrarily, and in my view, wrongfully arrested about January 6th, they're being dragged in front of a judge, an activist judge, and they're required to say, I hate Donald Trump. Oh, good little boy. All right, then we'll let you go home. What was that again? I hate Donald Trump. Good boy. Now, if that's not political and ideological, I don't know what the fuck is. But so this is where we're heading with the justice system. These are the workarounds they're using just to declare you some vague enemy or some vague threat, and that's it. Your legal rights go sailing out the window. Now, you can probably, and I think you can, if you've got enough money and you've got the right support, you can take them to court, but it'll be a decent waiting list, and they can harass the crap out of you in the meantime. Now, again, I don't know why any nation state would want that sort of thing running amok. But the reality is that if there's a real crime going on, they don't care. But if there's an ideological crime, that is, you're opposing the globalist project, then suddenly all the resources of the state are now directed against you. And they can use these little micro tripwires everywhere. Oh, you didn't use a transgender person's proper pronoun. Damn prison for you. So this is the way that things are going, and it's accelerating. And I think if this carries on another 10 years, the Bill of Rights will and the Constitution won't even exist, or not in any material sense. They'll have all these workarounds. Sure, you've got the right to bear arms, but if you're a white supremacist, you can't. And we don't have to prove what white supremacy is or define it. We don't have to prove that you are. We just have to say you are, and that's it. You can't have a firearm. That's how they'll do it. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.